Tonight, minority government. The Liberals win a fourth straight term in Ottawa. Historic win. Bob Zimmer delivers his largest victory to date. And job action. Hospitality workers locked out by their employer. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin with Prime Minister Mark Carney waking up today with a minority government and a mandate to lead Canada into negotiations with the United States. The trade war has been central to the federal election campaign, and with the threat still hanging over the country, there's little time to waste. Michael Couture leads off our federal election coverage tonight.
After eking out a win and celebrating with a mini concert at his victory party, Prime Minister Mark Carney got right to work this morning, focused on uniting the country as Canada fights a trade war with the United States. Prime Minister Carney arrived at his office saying he had a lot of energy and a lot to do. As the trade war with the U.S. continues, Carney's other challenge is to govern a country divided along political lines.
And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home.
In a minority parliament, the Liberals will have to find a dance partner in order to pass any legislation. And it would seem the Bloc Québécois is ready to listen.
Kind of a truce in which the Liberals would refrain from being offensive about language and security of the state and immigration and oil. Looking at what we have in common and working on that.
A working relationship that premiers say could use a reset as the country continues to fight a trade war with the U.S.
I want to work alongside this federal government to build a strong and growing Saskatchewan, as I said, within a very united and strong growing nation of Canada.
BC's premier went one step further with this message for members of Parliament.
This is the time for all MPs to pull together and to deliver for Canadians regardless of party, to deliver the stability that we need and a strong, united face against Donald Trump.
As Canadian politicians call for a collective response, the new U.S. ambassador to Canada was received by Governor General Mary Simon at Rideau Hall. Carney and Trump spoke today on the phone, where the U.S. president congratulated him on his victory, and the two leaders agreed to meet in person in the near future. Michael Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
And locally, incumbent Member of Parliament Bob Zimmer easily re-elected to a fifth term in office. Zimmer receiving 71.3% of the vote, and that's the highest total that the Conservative has received since he became a Member of Parliament for Prince George Peace River Northern Rockies. The Liberals placing second, almost 27,000 votes behind the Conservatives, and longtime NDP candidate Corey Longley coming in third with 6% of the vote. Zimmer thanking his supporters last night in Fort St. John. He said he will go back to Ottawa and keep working to deliver a majority Conservative government for Canadians. So let's take a look at the final seat count. The Liberals have been elected in 169 ridings. In the end, that's just 3 seats away from a majority of 172. The Conservatives ended with 144. The Bloc Québécois 122, while the NDP collapsed and are now down to just 7 seats, with the Green Party winning 1. The Liberals may not have won the majority they were hoping for, but the party made some big gains here in BC, much of that coming at the expense of the NDP. British Columbia emerged as another battleground with several three-way races. As it stands right now, the Liberals are ahead in 20 ridings in BC, the Conservatives ahead in 10, the NDP lead in 3, while the Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May held on to her riding. In total, the Liberals gained 14 points to give them 40% of the popular support in BC. That was just 2 percentage points behind the Conservatives. Meanwhile, the NDP plummeted to 16 points, down to 13%. The New Democrats so far are elected leading in 3 ridings, and that's down from the 13 seats that they won in 2021. Jagmeet Singh has lost his Burnaby riding last night and promptly stepped down as party leader. One of the more fascinating races last night in BC was in the Fraser Valley, where an independent candidate was hoping to steal a seat. However, it was the Conservatives coming out on top. Sukhman Gill won the Abbotsford South Langley riding by a wide margin, while Mike de Jong came in third. Now, de Jong had wanted to run for the Conservatives, but the party passed him over for the 25-year-old Gill. Young says he knew it would be a challenge, but he's proud of the campaign he ran. Now, a glance at the electoral map shows the divide between East and West Canada. Besides a few pockets of red and orange and a speck of green on Vancouver Island, Conservative blue is dominant west of Ontario. Kathy Lee is in Calgary tonight with a measure of the mood as Albertans woke up to the news this morning of a fourth straight Liberal government.
I spoke to a number of Albertans today, and there seems to be a mixed bag of emotions. Some are happy about a Liberal win, while others are disappointed about a Conservative loss.
A little disappointed. We were hoping she'd have a little bit of a change.
I'm glad that the Liberals won, and I'm glad that some Conservatives lost in Alberta.
While the Liberals won the election, it came far from winning this province. The party holds 2 seats, making no gains since the last election. Premier Danielle Smith has invited the Prime Minister to work with the provincial government to reset the relationship with Alberta and Ottawa, saying she cannot permit the status quo to continue.
I, at the very beginning of the campaign, said whoever got elected, I would expect them to address the 9 offensive pieces of legislation and policy that prevent us from being able to exercise our constitutional jurisdiction to develop our resources.
They can't have us as a cash cow and then stifle our industry.
Others say Ottawa and Alberta need to find a common ground, especially with threats from the United States.
Look for the opportunity to be collaborative with the federal government. And until proven otherwise, assume that their motivations are going to be genuine.
Premier Smith says she wants more pipeline projects up and running to get energy to different markets. She says many Albertans are deeply frustrated and will no longer tolerate having resource projects blocked by Ottawa.
And here's how voter turnout for yesterday's election is shaping up. According to Elections Canada, more than 19 million Canadians voted in this year's election. That's out of 28.5 million voters who were registered. Right now, that puts voter turnout at around 67%. Official turnout for the election in 2021 was at 62.2%. In other news tonight, hospitality workers at an oil and gas camp north of Fort St. John have been locked out by their employer. Workers at Horizon North Cobes Creek camp issued a 72-hour strike notice on Friday. Well, Monday night, they were informed by the company they were being locked out of work. The union representing the workers says they were given 30 minutes notice, then bused to Fort St. John and left stranded in a parking lot hundreds of kilometers from their homes in Edmonton. The culinary, housekeeping, and janitorial workers are all employed by Horizon North Camp Services. They're demanding better wages, safe workloads, travel pay, and improved benefits. Health officials in Vancouver are confirming today the man accused of driving his SUV into a crowd at a Filipino festival, killing 11 people, was under the care of a mental health team and was on leave from the hospital. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson with more.
At massive memorials in East Vancouver, emotion is raw.
The moment we stepped in here, you can feel that pain.
Pain also being felt by the Premier.
The number one priority is ensuring justice for the Filipino community.
David Eby is also confirming the accused killer, Kai G. Adam Lowe, who police say was behind the wheel of the SUV that plowed through pedestrians at a street festival, killing 11 of them, was under the supervision of a mental health care team.
For me, that leads to a whole array of additional questions, and I just want to assure British Columbians that if the criminal process is not able to surface these issues and answer these questions that we have, that we will call a full public inquiry.
That comes after Vancouver police said Lowe had a brush with law enforcement the day before the attack.
That contact was not criminal in nature, and it did not rise to the level where mental health intervention was required.
Online fundraisers are generating hundreds of thousands of dollars for the families of victims. People like Richard Lee, his wife Lynn, and their 5-year-old daughter Katie, all killed, leaving behind 16-year-old Andy. And Kira Salim, a teacher who moved to Canada from Brazil, described as deeply committed to young people.
In the legislature, BC's opposition Conservatives are straight up asking the question, did the system fail both the accused and the victims? A debate just getting started. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And Fort St. John City Council voting to fly the Filipino flag at City Hall at half-mast until May the 4th in honor of the lives lost in the tragic events in Vancouver. Well, no criminal charges are being brought against a Canadian hockey player after a former NHL player died when his neck was cut by a skate. Canadian Matthew Petgrave was playing for a hockey team in the United Kingdom 2 years ago when he collided with Adam Johnson. Johnson's neck was sliced. He died shortly after that. Petgrave was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter and released on bail, but today the Crown says it will not bring criminal charges against him, but it is looking into whether to criminally charge another player that was also involved in the incident. Have you filed your income taxes yet? Well, the deadline to do so is fast approaching. Most people have until the end of the day tomorrow to file their return in addition to paying any taxes owed. If you're self-employed, you still have some time. That tax filing deadline is June the 15th, but any taxes owed must be paid by tomorrow. Canadian manufacturing companies that export to the United States are relieved the election is in the rearview mirror. Now they're hoping for a plan of action from Prime Minister Carney. Canarm is an HVAC manufacturer with its headquarters in Brockville, Ontario. It's been dealing with the uncertainty of United States tariffs for months. And after both Carney and Pierre Poilievre spent a lot of time focusing on how either of them would deal with President Trump if elected, the company's CEO says it's now time for results.
We're dealing with tariffs every day, the changing tariff landscape, and doing the best we can with the rules that come out. The customers are saying the same thing to me. Just give us stability, give us what the landscape is, give us the rules of play, and we can adjust our businesses accordingly.
Nearly half of the company's products manufactured in Brockville are exported to customers in the United States. And today marks 100 days since U.S. President Donald Trump started his second term in office, and he headed to Michigan to mark the milestone, once again touting his tariffs.
Got a lot of auto jobs coming. Watch what's happening. The companies are coming in by the tens. You got to see what's happening. They all want to come back to Michigan and build cars again. You know why? Because of our tax and tariff policy. They're coming from all over the world. They're coming up and they're opening up plants and they're talking to us all day and all night. They want to get here and they're coming in at levels you've never seen before.
And the Trump administration hinting at some potential good news for automakers as they prepare for another new round of tariffs. Trump is scheduled to sign an executive order intended to soften the impact of his auto tariffs. They face a potential 25% duty on most parts that's been slated to begin by this Saturday. It's in addition to the tariffs already in place for steel, aluminum, and almost all imported vehicles. All right, please do stay tuned. We had some very special guests in studio this afternoon, and we'll tell you all about it after the break.